Welcome to episode number 43 of the Introvert Biz Growth Podcast, the show where I talk to introverts who grow their business and make a difference. As always, I'm Sarah Senecroce and thrilled that you're spending this time with me today. Today I'm talking to Victoria Whitfield. A gifted channel and psychic empath from early childhood, Victoria has spent most of her personal life exploring parapsychology, world religions, bioenergy, psychopsychology, and metaphysical studies. However, her life changed when she experienced firsthand how being too open can be scary, and over the last 10 years, she has seriously committed to studying various forms of meditation, spiritual philosophy, and energy healing modalities such as shamanism, vortex therapy, Reiki, and Feng Shui, so that now she can use her gifts as powerful tools rather than feeling overwhelmed by them. She has privately studied and practiced meditation, crystal healing, and divination since 2004. The turning point was when her mentors started asking her for healing, advice, and support, and with their encouragement in 2011, she began to share her passion professionally part-time as a Reiki master, and then eventually transitioned to full-time in December 2013. She now speaks at corporations such as AT&T and tours the world teaching about holistic stress management and natural intuition development. Hi, Victoria. How are you today?
Oh, good, Sarah. So good.
Great. Good to hear. Good to hear. I'm great too. I think it's kind of the first day of fall as we're recording this. I know it's only end of August, but over here it's been really nice, and it just started raining like crazy today. So I'm like, oh, that's too bad. The summer is over. But other than that, I'm great. So Victoria, tell us a little bit, besides your official bio. And the first thing actually I want to ask you is about your title, the Sensei. So tell us about the Sensei, and then tell us about a bit about your story and something that the introverts in the audience can relate to.
Definitely. So about my title, the word Sensei in Japanese means teacher. And it's a person who's committed their life to teaching and sharing within a certain tradition, and they have a certain level of study that they've achieved in order to have that title. And the area of study that for me I'm sensei in is called Reiki, which is a natural therapy. So it's an energy therapy that comes from Japan. That's why these words are all in Japanese. And Reiki in particular has to do with moving and shaping ambient health energy through a person's system. So that's where my title of Sensei comes from. That's where my teaching mastery is. Over here in the West, there's a title called a Reiki Master. And that title I actually don't really identify with personally, because like as an introvert, I have this constant curiosity to learn and know more. I'm always reading. Like actually, as I'm talking to you right now, I'm staring at my books here in my home office. And so I don't really believe personally, just for myself, I'm not talking about anyone else, but I don't really believe personally in becoming a master of anything. I'm happy to teach what I know, and I have studied with other so-called masters and those who really deepen their practice. But for me, I feel that if you're going to really master anything, you become a lifelong student of it and share your wisdom with those along the way. So that's why I chose to take more of the title Sensei as opposed to Reiki Master.
Yeah, that's a very good approach. I think it's kind of the same thing in my main business. I help clients get clients on LinkedIn, and there's the, kind of this also debate about the titles of expert or specialist. And I always go with the specialist because, I'm specializing in this topic, but by no means am I an expert in master, LinkedIn master. Oh my God, that would be even kind of more intimidating, I guess. And I totally agree with you. We never have this kind of level where we think we know everything. So I like
Mm-hmm.
that choice of words, which, sensei. I knew it from the martial arts.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously, Reiki coming from Japan makes sense that they call it that as well. So take us a little bit into your story, how you became Sensei Victoria and what it is you do now with your clients online and offline, because I'm sure there's an offline part to your practice, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes, indeed. So I was born naturally intuitive and sensitive, and that's called being an empath. Essentially, what it means to be empathic is different than having empathy, where your empathy is a mental kind of acrobatic that we do to, let me imagine what it's like to be in someone else's shoes. However, when you're born naturally sensitive or empathic, you unfortunately have no choice. You experience other people or even other animal or places, their emotional energy.
Mm-hmm.
So this has been a lifelong personal journey of mine, just exploring more around my own energy, my own sensitivities, and starting to better manage them so that I could be the best person I can be. Now, what inspired me on that was not just like, oh, I just want to be positive. No, it actually comes from a lot of pain. I used to suffer from pretty severe depression because of all this emotional overwhelm. And, you talk to different doctors and psychologists, and they don't really know what to tell you other than, okay, so tell me your story again, which is the psychologist route. And then the doctor's route is, okay, after you tell so-and-so your story, take this pill.
Yeah, right.
And so you end up going round and around in circles. And that inspired me, like that just exhaustion of going round and around in circles. I wanted to find an alternative way because I really believed that there was more. And so I started learning more about Reiki and energy and how to understand the body's energy systems, especially in like maybe starting around 11 years ago was when I really made a serious commitment to start doing this because I was in a horrible relationship, really bad. One of those relationships where you just kind of surrender yourself to please the other person. Thankfully, I'm, looking back, you have hindsight is 2020. But after that really dark breakup, that was what inspired me to say, you know what, no more. I want to heal my life, but I want to pursue it in a different way. I've studied privately with other teachers. I'm not really one who thrives well in like a big, traditional educational system. No, I learn best when studying one-to-one. Over the years, I've had mentors and spiritual counselors. I've studied with a Tibetan Lama, the Lama Tulku Lobsang. And I've traveled to different parts of the world to study with other masters privately so that I could first heal myself. But what happened along the way is that as I started getting better with time, my friends and then some of my colleagues even at work would say, well, what are you doing? You seem so much happier. Or there's just something about you whenever I'm sitting next to you, I feel so calm. I don't know what it is, maybe it's just how you are. I was like, no, actually, this is something I've been working on. And so at first I started to share it just for the sake of practicing the actual techniques, just to continue practicing. It wasn't even a business. It was frankly more of a hobby and a personal passion of mine.
Right. So you were still working at the time while you were getting all this training.
Yes.
I think that's a really important message because oftentimes we think that we just have to step right into it and give up all our day job and go full on board into our passion. But, sometimes these things happen gradually and you seem to be, one of the people where that's what happened. So over time, as you were training, you then realized, hey, maybe there's more to it than just kind of a hobby.
Yeah. And the interesting thing is that I would start meeting more people who would encourage me to share more, or to share more of my brilliance, or to help more people. When the student's ready, the master appears. And so different mentors of mine would have a little bit more of a business mindset about them, and say, Victoria, you're really good at teaching people. Wouldn't it be amazing if you were able to teach more people and in a sustainable way? And from that kind of a conversation is where doing this professionally evolved. Like, this was really something, and it still is, and that's actually what draws more clients towards me, is because this is really just a personal passion of mine. I'm not doing this really for recognition, but instead just to share in the journey with others who are on the same path.
Nice. Yeah. So that kind of leads us nicely into the second question is, well, okay, since it's now a business model, even if you're saying, yes, you're mainly doing this to make a difference, tell us a little bit how it is that you generate income. So are you working with groups? Are you mostly doing this one-on-one? Do clients see you in your, how would you call that?
A dojo.
A dojo, there you go.
Yeah.
Or can Reiki be done online? So tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah. So over the years, I've been doing this full time for the last 5 years only. So like, I've had this longer term journey where we were talking about before, but for the last 5 years, this has been my full-time focus. And at first it started off where it was just my private sessions that I was holding in person as I would have space. And then from there, as I started having more sustainable office space, or dojo, by the way, means a place of learning.
Another Japanese word that I'm learning today.
Yeah. I find these words ground me and feel more authentic to me than some of their English counterparts.
Right.
So, but as I would have more sustainable office space, if you want to call it that way, then I wouldn't just have one-on-one sessions, but I would also have a weekly group that would come in, because I also teach meditation techniques. And as I was growing and learning more ways to serve others, right, and to reach them, I learned about Skype and started doing Skype sessions where I'm doing more spiritual consulting over Skype. And then from there now, more recent years, Zoom, which is just really a fantastic platform, has enabled me to do Zoom spiritual consulting and even masterminds now. So those are my main sources of revenue. Currently, I've just begun working with a team. So instead of doing private healing work or one-on-one or just a few individuals, instead now some of my clients who've seen me over the years have their own businesses, and I've stood up and said, hey, Victoria, this is something I would really like to share with my employees, so that we're all studying how to clear and ground our energy together as a team so that we have a better office. So that's something that's brand new. It's a lovely experience to get to see them grow like a family together in the practice. Yeah.
So you go into the companies, or that's also online?
So it's integrated. So I have enough space at my current dojo office to host smaller teams. So the current team that I have is under 10 people. So they come to the dojo space. I have done speeches at like AT&T before, so that I can't hold in person. I also go then with this team that I'm working now in particular, I'll go to do space clearing and a meditation for them in office. And then we also have a conference call. So it's like a integrated approach.
Right. A bit of both. Yeah. Yeah. I think what's important for people to know is that these coachings or healings can be done over Skype. So they really do work. Yeah. Like you say, it's more like spiritual consulting. And yes, obviously, it would be nice if, even for us right now, if you would sit right next to me, that would be nicer, because it kind of gives a different feel. But we all have very busy lives, and sometimes the client actually wants to be able to just do it from their own home space, office, or whatever. So
I think it's important to realize that, the internet has given us this freedom.
Mm-hmm.
So let's talk a little bit about your introverted superpowers. So the first one would be one of your biggest strengths that you see that you have as an introverted online entrepreneur. So what do you think has helped you the most?
Mm-hmm. What I feel my strength is as an introverted entrepreneur, especially online, is my ability to listen. That's actually more of my personal default state, is listening and observing rather than speaking or, having people talk at me and like all that extrovert stuff. I prefer to listen and observe so that I'm more absorbing information. And that comes up in 3 ways for me personally. First is my ability to listen to myself with all this deep spiritual work that I've done for myself personally. I'm more able to listen to my own feelings, and that way I can have more respect for personal boundaries as well as inspiration, managing my own energy so that I'm able to be more productive, learning how to listen to myself. Also, my ability to listen to others, being a natural born empath. Again, by default, I just absorb others' energy. Now, before I did all this inner work to understand why that's a strength, it used to overwhelm me. But now I've learned that that's actually an advantage, that absorbing others' feelings, emotions, energies, and what's going on with them gives me the ability to communicate with them and listen to them on a much deeper level that passes the words that they're saying or the kind of front that they put up. So I'm actually really grateful for that. It's taken a long time to cultivate that ability.
I think I'm still not there yet.
Yeah.
I have the same thing. And yes, sometimes I see it as a strength. And sometimes I think, can I just care a little less about all these? Yeah. But I think when it comes to people you care also about, or, personal relationships, the empathy definitely helps deepening those relationships. What bothers me, if the empathy impacts me, when it's people I don't actually know that much and I don't really care that much or don't want to care and still do because of the empathy. So that's when it kind of gets, overwhelming, I think.
Yeah, it's definitely. I know for me personally, this is an ongoing practice, and it really takes time to be able to sort through all of that white noise of emotion and caring, and just, you think of images in the media that strike you, or hearing someone share their story, or just, how they're like, they start talking about, oh yeah, I'm fine. And then you feel all this stuff.
Yeah, I know. And it's almost like we attract those, right? Because they're like, oh, this person is really listening. Okay, let me just let go here.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, that's a fun fact. I'm the woman that for some reason, if I'm at the grocery store, like standing online to check out at the grocery store, the person next to me always starts telling me their life story. I swear I'm just trying to buy some like coconut milk here. I don't know why you're telling me about how your like boyfriend left you and your foot hurts and stuff.
Yeah, I'm right with you there.
Yeah, people can feel it though.
Maybe. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So what would be like, obviously it takes much more to Reiki than just telling me like this one little practice, but what would be one thing that you would say, this has helped me? Is it kind of like meditation, or is it breathing, or?
So I would definitely say, and this is a perfect question, because as I said, I have 3 things about my listening, and that ties right into the third one. And that's beginning to listen to spirit. Now, whether you have religious beliefs or you're atheistic, like for those who are atheistic, I would say spirit is more of the human potential, right? And a belief in positive expectation and, so human potential. But learning to listen to spirit can really help, because that creates trust, grounding, and clearing you. So when we're overwhelmed by this empathic energy sense that we have, it's really because we're, one, being intruded upon, like our energy, our emotion, our mind, even just our mindset is being intruded upon by other people's energy.
Right.
And extending from that, too, we feel a sense of I'm not safe. I'm not even safe in my own body, in my own head. I can't trust that I'm going to feel safe in this body, in this mind. And so that can cause a cascade of so many other negative thought patterns and toxic behaviors. So a wonderful antidote behind that is to find some aspect of spirit that increases your sense of trust and feeling supported. So let me make this very specific. For me personally, nature is my personal spiritual relationship. Not really something I'm religious about, but it's instead something that gives me a sense of comfort, inspiration, wonder, and spaciousness. So when I'm feeling emotionally overwhelmed, I do my best to connect to nature. Now, how I began connecting to nature literally was, I'll never forget, I used to work this incredibly toxic job. I mean, my boss was a screamer. And I would bring these rocks with me that whenever I would feel scared or overwhelmed by her anger energy, or even overwhelmed by, I was a medical billing and coding manager, so overwhelmed by the emotions and the fears of the patients, I would hold these rocks. I'm dead serious. Literally just rocks, or some people call them crystals, just in my hand. And the weight of it, the sensation, would calm me and bring me back down. Sometimes I could even feel their emotions going into the rock instead of into me.
Wow, kind of like a barrier almost.
Exactly. So that connecting to nature, that was the very first way, because I wasn't by any trees. It was more of like a metropolitan type area. So just being able to have that, or even having fresh cut flowers on my desk so that I could look at them and think of beauty instead of getting absorbed into all these other emotional or heavy thoughts and emotions I was absorbing from my environment. So one suggestion I would say is find a way to connect to nature. Not everyone could go for a walk. I mean, going for a walk is fabulous, especially near water or near a forest for clearing your emotions. But you don't even have to do that. It could even be bringing nature indoors with you to help you reconnect and focus on things that are natural and spacious and calming, instead of having more of the focus on, oh, I got to get this done. Oh, so-and-so needs this thing by the deadline. Oh, my kid, fell and now the principal is angry. Oh, like give yourself something calming.
Yeah, it's very true, because I usually go for a walk in the forest. And I think that term, a forest bath, actually also comes from Japan.
Yeah, Shinrin-yoku is what that's called. Forest bathing.
Yeah. Okay, interesting. Yeah, so I heard that first on Jonathan Field's podcast, The Good Life Project, and I'm like, it's so true. Oh my God, I feel like really I'm taking my forest bath. And so I totally agree with you that nature helps you kind of also put you in perspective again and say, look, you're just this tiny little human. Look at these giant trees. Look at this nature. Look at this beauty. You're just a tiny little human. You can't take everything so personally and take all the burden of the entire world and trying to change that. So that's, kind of how I use the forest as this way of thinking, I'm just this tiny thing. I can't solve the world's problem. But wow, we kind of got sidetracked, but it was so, it was important to bring that up, because a lot of introverts are highly sensitive people, are dealing with empathy. And sometimes too much empathy maybe, because we then struggle with all these emotions. So
we bring it into our inner world, and then it's just like an awful, horrible hamster wheel from there.
Yeah, exactly. So let's talk about the challenge. What would you say is kind of, the biggest challenge? Because we started out as saying that feeling and emotions are actually a strength. So what would you say would be a challenge as an introverted online entrepreneur?
Definitely. So I love that we're talking about this. This is really juicy conversation. My biggest challenge as an introverted online entrepreneur is actually, it stems from what we're talking about, being overprotective of my energy or my time. So what stems from that is one of my mentors calls being a control enthusiast.
Yeah.
Not a control freak, but no, we're very enthusiastic about controlling things.
Yeah.
And it turns into this do it yourself, do everything yourself.
Yeah.
And I'll put myself under the bus. Shine the spotlight on this. I'm definitely a do-it-yourselfer. I know I love coding, for example, and HTML and learning more about WordPress plugins and all this stuff because, part of my personality is I love just engineering and putting things together.
Mm-hmm.
But what happens on the dark side of this is, I can, fall into hours of research of how to build this sort of thing. And then I'm coding on this part of the website. Before I know it, I lose sense of time, or I'm working later into the night because I've just, focused more on doing it myself. And then with that, maybe this will make sense to some of your listeners, but I have trouble, and I've been working on this, I have trouble delegating because I know how I want it done. Right. I know how I do it. I know how I want it done. And so
it's really difficult to outsource and delegate.
Yeah. And it's so funny because who connected you and I is actually my virtual assistant, Julianne. Yay. Yes. And she's such a blessing because she'll sit there and practically pull my teeth out, or she'll sit there with me and pull the process out so that I don't have to do it myself anymore. But as an introvert, there is that kind of fear of like, taking on other people's energy. Yeah. And it's a long, steady process, or at least for me, that's how I learn, is long, steady processes for how to let go and start sharing creativity and sharing responsibility.
Yeah, it has to do with controlling, also has to do with perfectionism, which I think a lot of introverts can raise their hand right there. So all of that, just kind of like, okay, gotta let go of the control, of the always wanting to be perfect, and just, start delegating, because otherwise you can't grow a business if you're always going to do everything yourself. So
exactly. Yeah. So true.
Great. All right. Let's talk about the 3 golden nuggets, like I like to call them. So these are kind of more practical things. The first would be a personal habit, something that you do or have done on a regular basis that you think that's the one thing that contributed to your success.
Mm-hmm. So I would have to say the one thing that contributes to my success is having a consistent daily ritual for getting me in the productivity zone, that creativity zone. I have a consistent ritual every single day. I study and follow the work of Abraham Hicks, and Abraham is a consciousness channeled by a woman named Esther. And their work has been really amazing because they talk about this thing called the vortex that you got to get into the vortex. And then if you do whatever, so you get into your zone, essentially, your creative zone first and foremost, and then you go and take any kind of action. That one practice alone has changed my life. And then making that a way of life where I'm consistently, like there's a consistent time of day where I get into my zone, right? I raise up my energy.
How long have you been practicing that?
So I began learning about it before I started my professional work, but when I committed to being in business full-time 5 years ago, I also committed that like, this is my daily practice. Like I'm going to do this every single day. Yeah. So every single day. And I can tell you that there are some days where I have skipped it and I notice the difference. You know, like maybe I'm on vacation or maybe I'm just feeling kind of like a lazy bum.
Happens to the best of us, right?
Yeah. And so I'll skip it and I have the hardest time focusing. I have the hardest time coming back to the work or coming back to, all right, let me send out that email, blah, blah, blah. No, I have to make sure I handle how I feel first by getting into the zone and then.
Can you say the name again? Abraham? What was his last name?
Abraham Hicks.
Hicks. Okay. I'll make sure to link to that so listeners can look that up as well.
Yeah.
What about an internet resource? Something, you mentioned WordPress, obviously, but something else that you use every day that you could share?
Well, let's see.
You mentioned Zoom already as well. So
yeah,
that's definitely one that I use every day as well.
Same here. So I've got so many resources. Oh no, which one thing do I tell you? Here's one which kind of goes hand in hand with getting into the zone and staying in the zone, or as Abraham Hicks would say, getting into the vortex and staying in it. There's an app that you can download for free on your phone called Winstreak.
Okay.
So Winstreak. Winstreak. Now, as an entrepreneur, oftentimes I'm working by myself. As an introvert, oftentimes I'm working by myself. And so I can go for, a long period of time with not really seeing anybody in person or having people to bounce ideas off of. And frankly, I like that. So I'm able to, that's my version of focus. But at the same time, if I don't have something to be accountable to, eventually I'll start unraveling. Like my productivity will start to unravel and go down. So Winstreak is an app that actually allows you to be accountable to yourself and document that. And essentially how it works is that you have today's wins and tomorrow's wins. It's just a list. Today's wins and tomorrow's wins.
Cool. Yeah, I'm looking at it right now, so it looks very interesting.
Yeah, so
Definitely
if there's something that you achieved today that's good or positive or that you had been working on, you record it as, I got a win. And what happens when you do that, it fires off pleasure chemicals. When you achieve something, that fires pleasure chemicals in your brain. So this app reinforces that and causes you to essentially become addicted to staying focused and getting things done, so that you record more wins of what you did that day. And then inevitably you'll come up with what you want to do tomorrow, or ideas that come up naturally would be great if you were able to do it the next day. So those are recorded as tomorrow's win. The app then will tell you, you can set the time when you want it to send you a push notification of, hey, today's wins will be, because that was what you put in the tomorrow's wins part of the app. But for me, using Winstreak keeps me focused and keeps me making regular progress because I'm accountable. Like I can see, I had all these wins from this day. I want to keep that progress going. It keeps me motivated. That has really caused me to have massive results and take massive action in my business. Believe it or not, having that app.
Wonderful. I just installed it as you were talking about it. I'm like, okay, this is on my phone now. Yeah. Excellent. So I'll make sure to link to that as well. And then finally, as you mentioned before, you're a bookworm, like many introverts. I don't think there was one that on my podcast that wasn't a book reader. So besides your own book, because you didn't actually mention it, but we talked about your book offline, so I will definitely link to that one. But besides your own book, what book would you recommend to the introverted biz growth audience, and why?
I gotta pick one. Oh boy. And so it's related to business growth in particular. So let me see here. I'm literally looking at it like, I gotta pick one. I would say, let me not shrink from that. When it comes to business growth, a book that just changed how I see being an introvert and like turned it into a strength rather than being kind of like, oh, I'm not really like comfortable with too many people's energy. I like reading, or I like recordings, or more of that. Launch by Jeff Walker. Wow. I mean, I have a million books that I could recommend just in case if someone's listening right now and this is the only time they get to listen to you or only time we get to connect. Maybe other people have said Launch, but it
has never mentioned before, and I read it. Yeah, and I have to agree. It would definitely be one to add to the list.
Spectacular. He gives you exactly how. Like after reading that book, I'm like, oh my God, Jeff Walker, I love you. Because he gives you the exactly how to email your list in order to turn emails into like an income generating business, essentially. So you don't even have to be physically present. Like you can automate all of that. And he gives the exactly how, easily accessible, tons of resources. It's fun to read because you can really hear his sense of humor coming out. His case studies are spectacular. That book, I swear, I think it has bite marks on it. I've like read it so many times.
I was going to say, how many times did you read it? At least a couple of times, right?
Oh my gosh, yes. Yeah.
Great. Yeah, I'll definitely mention that. And actually, I think I should reread it because some of these classics, you just, can't read them often enough. So definitely a good one. Well, we're getting almost full circle here. And so the last question I always like to ask is this mindful ending. And sounds like you're all about that. So, Victoria, what are you grateful for today or this week or this month?
Let me drop into my heart. I am so grateful for loyal and supportive, loving family, friends, colleagues, clients, just those loving souls who you can literally just sit with completely open-hearted, who accept me as I am. I am so grateful for that because it makes me feel safe. It makes me feel supported, and it makes me feel joyful. And those are some core desired feelings of mine that I hold in very deep regard. I am so grateful to have loyal, loving, supportive, safe people around me. I know what it's like to have come from a place where there are really toxic, scary people, even abusive people around me. So I am just all the way to the base of my being grateful for safe, loving, supportive people.
Well, either you tell them or you make them listen to the podcast so they know that you're grateful.
I'll do both.
Exactly. It's always nice to send, short little messages to people and say, hey, I'm just really grateful to, have you or have you around for a lunch or whatever. Yeah. So I think we sometimes don't do that often enough. So
true.
Yeah. Well, this has been a wonderful conversation. Thank you so much, Victoria, for taking the time to share your story and talk to me and share with other introverts who are listening that it's great to be an online entrepreneur as an introvert. There's some challenges, of course, but there's definitely a lot of benefits and strengths too. So thanks so much for sharing that.
It's been an honor. I'm so grateful. You are just the kindest, gentlest presence. It's really been an honor.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
That's it for this episode of the Introvert Biz Growth Podcast. You can find out more about Victoria at victoriawhitfield.com or on Facebook, facebook.com/Sensei Victoria Whitfield. You'll find this episode's show notes at sarahsanacroce.com/episode 43. And if you're listening to this show on a mobile device, you can click on the description and you'll actually find all the clickable links in there as well. Talking about links, make sure you also check out sarahsanacroce.com/say no to get my free 4-part guide, including email scripts that will help you say no with ease so that you can concentrate on what is important to grow your business. Just go over to sarahsanacroce.com/say no. Thanks so much for listening. This is Sarah Sanacroce signing off from the Introvert Biz Growth Podcast. Remember, you need to use your unique introverted superpowers in order to make a difference.